No guarantee of any kind.
I'm so sorry if I sound a bit negative because I sound so different to how I came last year, only because as my prices increased, I saw more successful men. And then the behavior of more successful men is so different to the behavior of less successful men, which made me believe that the only reason men are being good is because they don't have the options and the ability to do what successful men do. So it made me then even get into that. Is this why, you hear about royal families and they can become pedophiles? Or is this why you hear this? So it makes me think that as men have more financial freedom, their selection gets worse and worse, which means that their true desires might be worse and worse, but they just can't access it when they're on the lower end of the financial status.
There is something very true about that. And this brings us to what has changed that's made women have a hard time falling for average men now.
Yeah. I would say materialism to that as well. Yeah, I like, just like how men are a bit delusional about, you'll get men in their 50s and still think that they can get a 25-year-old. Women are also very delusional about the wealth that they can access. They spend endless hours consuming content online, which is just glorifying wealth, and then assuming that they deserve that lifestyle, and assuming it, almost making fun of men that aren't quite on that same level. And, what beautiful girls will do is use sex to access it, but less beautiful women will just stay single. They'll just say, well, I'm a CEO, or I'm working hedge funds, so I'm not going to settle for a guy that's on an average earning, even if she's not. But they don't realize for men, appearance means more than what you're earning. So to get that top level guy, he doesn't care that you're so smart and intelligent and you're a successful lawyer. He wants to know if you have a 21-year-old sister. That's what he's going to ask for. So I think there's a delusion on both ends.
Yeah, I think that's really important to dive into. And I will ultimately answer the question of whether I think men can or should have multiple wives. That's pretty interesting. But I do want to tie some of these things up from the very beginning, where we're talking about what's changed, what's broken. This idea of deserve, I think, is a really important idea. What do you think is driving this sense of entitlement?
They think if they see it, they should have it.
That's
it's as simple
it's
as
just
that.
Social media
That's
making
the criteria now. I've seen it, so I want it. There is no I've earned it. There's no that I also provide this quality, so therefore I could potentially ask for it back. But it's just, I've seen it, therefore I want it. And whenever you have a quality and you just, your baseline for why you want it is because you've seen it, that's not a valid reason for wanting something. But if it's something that you also provide and in your past experiences you've also received, because that's what happens, then chances are that's a realistic expectations. But if it's something you've never accessed and you don't actually can't provide it yourself, then it's an unrealistic expectation. So what I mean by this is, if you're a very beautiful girl, you can expect a beautiful man. Yes? Or if you're a beautiful girl and men have spoiled you in the past and they've given you a lot of money or whatever it is, you can expect that. But if you've never experienced men spoiling you, you've always had men that are more on the lower end, kind of dedicated to you, and yet you want a really wealthy man to propose to you, where is this expectation coming from? Because it's not from your lived experience. Expectations should come from our lived experiences. So if they're coming from vicarious experiences that you've seen online, they are not realistic. Just take them out of your mind, because they will keep you single. And I always say there's only two reasons why people are single. One reason is where they have excessive self-hate, where they don't really love themselves enough and they have really low self-esteem, so they avoid people, or they only go for people who don't love them enough, and as a result they find themselves in a perpetual cycle of an unhealthy relationship until it ends. Or people who have, which now more people are falling into, where people have excessive self-love, where they believe they deserve certain traits and refuse to settle until they access those traits, and as a result they're perpetually single. So I'll meet men, sometimes they'll get to 47, 48 years old, and they'll say, I want to have kids, so therefore I'll only go for a 25, 26-year-old. I want a woman in her 20s because, I want to have kids, which sounds valid on paper. And I was like, okay, but she's going to want financial compensation for the 20-year age difference. Then no, I want it to be a really genuine connection. I was like, but it's the price you pay when you get to a certain age. You can't expect a genuine connection from a young girl when you're in your 40s and 50s. You have to sacrifice the intimacy. So they think that they still deserve that connection, but sometimes we pass that. Same thing, I say the same thing with women. I was like, if you get to a certain age and stage and you haven't had your kids, and then they'll say, no, I don't want to be a stepmom, so he can't have any children, but I want to have kids. But if you're in your late 30s, early 40s, you have to adapt your expectations. It's the refusal to adapt expectations and stuck in almost a childlike state of I want my dummy now that keeps people single.
Should people settle?
Well, I think they should redefine what settling means. Is it settling in your case, or is it just going for the people? Are you a successful man who has achieved endless heights in his career? Are you somebody who's absolutely made it in his professional life, but his personal life just doesn't seem to match up? Are you somebody who goes through intense highs in business, but intense lows in your personal relationships? You might be somebody who has been blocking out relationships or entering relationships where you don't feel appreciated, or it's lacking the sexual or emotional intimacy that you require. If this sounds like you, then I have a program specifically catered to your needs. I've been helping high-end clients for a really long time, and I'm able to identify the exact problems, the exact causes, and the exact solutions. So if this sounds like you, then please feel free to register below your details. I'm stuck in almost a childlike state of I want my dummy now that keeps people single.
Should people settle?
Well, I think they should redefine what settling means. Is it settling in your case, or is it just going for the people that love you? Here's what people think settling is: just being with the person that likes you. But that is look, your criteria should be, what your type should be in people should be how somebody treats you. That's it. How they look, what their size they are, what they bring, all of that stuff should be secondary. Your type should be a treatment, not a person. So my type should be somebody who's kind, who's loving, who's loyal. Yes, attraction is definitely important. I'm not saying it's not important, but the treatment is more my type. Where people get a bit wrong is that their type has become, she has to be blonde, she has to be blue eyes, and they forget completely treatment is not mentioned. They don't even mention the type has to be how much she likes you back as well, and how much she's attracted to you back. They don't look at that. They just look at it from a unilateral perspective, and therefore they end up either single or being used and abused in relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sexual market value, I think, is important, and I think people's delusions around that create a lot of trouble. And figuring out what are the things that are most important to you, I think, is really beneficial.
Who do you
for
think is
human
more
thriving.
delusional? Who do you think is more?
Men or women?
Yeah.
Right now, probably women, because the way that social media works, it really rewards women in a way that wildly disadvantages men. So some of the things that we haven't gotten into in terms of how we're in the system that we're in. So you've said previously that back in the day, you didn't have to be, you couldn't be beautiful for anybody more than the town that you're in. And now you're beautiful for the whole world.
Yeah.
There's an equally interesting thing going on, which is, let's say that your 20s is, for guys, is kind of a throwaway. You're building the skill set. You're a bit of a moron. You're not confident enough. You don't know what you're doing. I mean, a select few, but for the most part, no. It's just a dark time.
Building blocks.
Building blocks, exactly. And so somewhere in your early to mid 30s, you start to break out. Now, somebody in their early to mid 30s can very much still connect with somebody in their early to mid 20s.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a big
No
jump.
problem.
So
And
now,
also the generation is in line with each other.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So now you've got somebody that's in their early 20s as a woman that can see a guy that's in their early 30s that's really starting to pop off. And so now that 20-something guy that would naturally be going for the woman that's only a couple of years different than him is competing with somebody that's in their 30s. And so now he's got all these years to really just get rejected over and over and over by women that have a growing sense of delusion. We were just talking, prepping for this episode was beyond fun. Me and the producer Drew just started talking about it, and slowly there was another person, and then another person, and then another person, until there was like 8 or 9 of us like talking about relationships and everything, and like where this is all going.
And they're younger, right? They're in
Some of them, yeah.
okay.
So we have people that are late 30s.
Yeah, okay,
and
so everybody's perspective was accounted for.
exactly.
Right.
Well, and then I'm the old guy, so that was also accounted for. But the fascinating thing was the one universal comment was, oh, it's actually easier to get laid now. It's just harder to get someone to commit. Yeah. Both the guys and the girls felt like that was the case. Yeah. And so that's like sort of derangement point number one is if what everybody's actually looking for is a long-term committed relationship, but there's this sort of invisible change in the sexual mores where people just feel like, well, I'm just going to try the merchandise before I buy. And so it's like you end up in, I'll have sex with you to see, like, is there anything here? But, and then point number 2 of just complete total derangement is you can be on the apps all the time. Yeah. Endless choice. constantly being like, well, I had fun with them, but was it the ultimate fun? Could I have more fun?
Yeah.
And so now in a world where women are hypergamous, they're dating over and up, and they can see the level of success via Instagram, whatever, across a wide swath of humanity.
Have you heard what I talk about when I say what hypergamy actually means for women?
Tell me more.
I know that the traditional sense, hypergamy is just, women want someone older, richer, all of these things. I say actually none of that matters. Women actually... Hi guys, welcome back to my Patreon, where every single week you can tune in and get exclusive content. Not only that, but you can also message me anytime and receive a response within 20
Women are hypergamous, they're dating over and up, and they can see the level of success via Instagram, whatever, across a wide swath of humanity.
Have you heard what I talk about when I say what hypergamy actually means for women?
Tell me more.
I know that the traditional sense, hypergamy is just, women want someone older, richer, all of these things. I say actually none of that matters. Women, actually their definition of hypergamy is the man that she can't manipulate. That's the only man she'll find hypergamous. A 19-year-old who's dating a CEO who's 40 years old, far more successful than her, taller than her, more grades, more qualifications, everything is above her. You would say that she's hypergamous. I can guarantee you, if she can manipulate every money, every piece, and get rent from him, get a car, she will still throw him in the dust and find somebody that she actually respects. That's not hypergamy in a woman's eyes. Hypergamy in a woman's eyes is, we can't fool you. Simple. She would rather be with a man that is less successful, less intelligent. Not that she'd rather be, but she'd be more submissive to a man who's less successful, less intelligent, might even be a bit shorter, but he doesn't fall for nonsense. He knows when she's trying to manipulate him. She can't trick him. She can't manipulate him. So I believe hypergamy is defined purely by the art of manipulation, not actually by the arbitrary things. Of course, we want someone richer and taller, but the baseline of that only matters if you're more intelligent than us. And we don't define intelligence by financial success. We define intelligence by, can I manipulate you, yes or no? If the answer is no, you are not an idiot. You are not going to pay my rent while your own daughter's rent you don't even consider, or you are not going to buy me a car because I slept with you a couple of times. You're not stupid. But if we find that, oh my God, I can tell him that I need his card and he gives it to me straight away, or I can tell him that, I lost my job so I need rent, and he gives it to me straight away without me even knowing him that well, just because, immediately she loses respect, and therefore the hypergamy disappears.
So I think you're onto a really important addition to hypergamy, but I can hear the men in the comments screaming right now, like, I can't be manipulated, so, but I still can't get a date.
Yeah.
I think the key to add to that is that it has to be someone that the woman would want to manipulate.
Yeah.
And so if she's not drawn to you, attracted to you, finds nothing interesting about you, it doesn't matter that if she tried to manipulate you, tell her to fuck off, you're not interested, whatever. There is a dynamic there. So first there has to be mutual desire, and then there has to be a very mature thing in it. It's funny. So
but I don't think men look for mutual desire anymore. I think men with high
False.
self-esteem do. I think men with super high self-esteem, I think the baseline is men with super high self-esteem, reciprocity is more important than beauty. As long as she wants him as much as he wants her. And this is like, men with high self-esteem only know what women look like who like them. So they know women to want to take their clothes off. They know women that are calling their phone 24/7. They know women who are initiating sex. That's what men with high self-esteem, that's the type of women they're around. Men with low self-esteem, which is getting more and more, don't care if she wants him, just as long as he gets to touch her. So that's where you'll find these men that go to escorts. You'll find these men that go to webcams, these men that go, travel, passport boys. They don't care if she wants him or not. Just, does she let me have sex with her? They're not looking for mutual desire as much, particularly as they get older.
you think they're not looking for mutual desire, or they have given up on finding?
I don't think they know what it even looks like, because they're so replaced mutual desire with attraction from their perspective. I had a video that got a lot of hate, where I said that the use of prostitutes is legal rape. And I believe that men who look for mutual desire, they realize that consent is not simply somebody saying yes. It's somebody who wants you as much as you want them. That's what true consent looks like in their eyes. Whereas men who use prostitutes, consent simply means yes, regardless of whether that's manipulated consent or whether that's, groomed or whatever it is, as long as she said yes. So even if you had to get that yes through an envelope on the table, they'll take that yes. They just want permission. But men with high self-esteem, they don't want permission, they want desire. Desire is their true form of consent, when a woman desires them. So I think, yes, I do believe women are delusional with what they want, but there's nothing more delusional than that man that as he gets older and older and older still wants that 19, 20-year-old, but wants her to actually want him. She's not going to want you.
Is Trump raping Melania?
Consensual rape. And there is a thing. It's where the consent is bought on, and as a result, it becomes consensual rape.
So you don't think it's possible that she thinks, ooh, like he's so powerful and so good at what he does.
Powerful.
And